Greetings fellow Guitar-Aliens, Jeff Weinberger coming at you with a new tutorial. I'd like today to talk about descending bass lines. And on the guitar, descending bass lines come in a lot of different varieties. I played a couple of them for you there in that intro, but there are many, many more. And we'll see how much time we have to talk about them, but let's go over at least a few. So the very first one I did, that was a standard walk down. It takes the chord G, and then it walks that down to the chord D, but we do a special voicing for that to include a bass note. So we do D over F sharp. I'll explain those chords in a minute, those over chords, D over F sharp, C over G slash chords, they're oftentimes called. We'll talk about those in a minute, but let me just show you those chords as we go. And then finally E minor. So again, G, D over F sharp, E minor. You might know that one from that Eric Clapton tune, Tears from Heaven. That definitely has that little chord change in it, and lots of other songs. I'll name a few songs later on that you all will recognize that use these descending bass lines. So long story short, the first chord I played in that intro, it was called a G5 chord. It's 3-2-0-0-3-3. Just a nice ringy version of a standard G chord. Some of you might even just call that G, and that's fine. I call it G5 for theory reasons, but we're not going to discuss that right now. Whatever we call it, it's a great G chord. It really has that nice ring to it. We know it from country, we know it from bluegrass, we know it from Led Zeppelin, we know it from lots of places. Great chord. All right, and then you drop that down to D over F sharp. I'll show you that. That's 2X 0 2 3X. So there's a couple of strings that you don't play, that you don't want to sound. So those X's are kind of important. Those would muddy the chord up and obscure the pure tone of that chord if you played too many strings. So that's why it's 2X 0 2 3X. Pretty important to get that clear sound. Otherwise it would be, it's hard to tell what chord that is. So finally, we can do a chord either just straight up E minor, 0 2 2 0 0 0. Perfectly good chord, as heard in Neil Young and Jethro Tull and so many songs. And then the version that I did in my little improvised intro there, I kind of changed it to an E minor 7, much like a Pink Floyd song would use or something like that, or Neil Young. And that chord is going to be 0 2 0 0 3 3. I just like that, sometimes better than E minor. That's my substitute often for E minor. So I did kind of a fancier G, did a fancier D, and I did a fancier E minor. With the express purpose of making these chords nice and bright and ringy, but to include those bass notes. The G bass note of the G chord, the F sharp bass note of the D chord, and the E bass note of the E minor chord. So that off the bat, it creates a little bass line that goes. And that's what's so appealing about these descending bass chord progressions. They all have that in common. There's also ascending bass progressions, but that might be a separate video. We're not going to do that today. So again, G5, D over F sharp, E minor or E minor 7. And then you can go back to D over F sharp if you wanted the progression to go down and up, like the song Landslide by Fleetwood Mac does. Lots of other songs too. So you can go in both directions. Let's look at what I did on the C chord. So in this case I have a C add 9. And that's going to be X3 2 0 3 3. Real ringy version of the C chord, very chimey. This would sound really good on a 12 string or a 12 string electric, like a Rickenbacker or something. It'd sound brilliant. But even on an old humble Gibson acoustic guitar, it sounds brilliant. It's a nice chord.